What did we do? We wrote to every council in Greater Melbourne and said, hey guys, can you please send us every name that you have on file? And we got 408. So there's a lot of estates on record. Then we categorised those into boxes so they would be a little bit useful, and then we used that information to survey people bona fide intending to purchase, so they were actually out there looking and visiting estate names, or they'd bought within the last 12 months. And the reason it was really hard to find them that had bought within the last 12 months is because they're building their homes. So they're hard people to find. So what did we find? We found that people are very ethnically diverse, which we would expect, which backs up what we see in display suites. The most significant thing that we found, and the thing that shocked me the most, is this almost even split between males and females. Real Estate Marketing 101 tells me that the female is the predominant searcher of information and decision maker. The next thing that Marketing 101 teaches me is that with surveys, women fill them in, men don't. So why are men active in this space? And so I looked further afield and thought, okay, well, let's actually look at our own websites that we manage on projects and see if men are visiting in a similar percentage to women. And then let's expand that and look at other websites that are in the industry and use public data to see if men are searching them in an even percentage to women. Now, whilst women are still certainly visiting websites more frequently than men on the whole, some of them really buck the trend and have men as more predominant, but the majority are roughly even, which is really interesting. We asked them to rank the top 3 out of 5. What 3 do you like? What 3 do you like? So anything less than 15% is actually disfavoured, which is really significant because it means that they only like one thing, which is notable feature. They actually don't like the other things. What did they like the most? They liked water features the most. What didn't they like? They didn't even like French and Italian names, and English names kind of just made the grade. Next thing they didn't like is they didn't like animals. When we drilled into the animals that they don't like least Australian native animals, particularly a kookaburra. Kookaburra was okay, which probably tells us they liked relatable Australianisms. They also didn't like cuddly animals very much. So maybe it's this thought of being oversold to, or putting a bit of a marketing spin on it that people don't enjoy. Then emotive and descriptive. And the next thing that's interesting here is the sophistication of the emotive/descriptive words that people favour or disfavour. Again, another interesting point, given we're talking to an ethnically diverse background, and you'd note that half the Chinese restaurants out there are called Lucky Gold Star. People don't like lower order emotional names. So lucky, happy, wealthy, aspire. Any of those lower order names are disfavoured, where names like paramount, majestic would be considered less distasteful. Important question, does it matter? Yes. 11% of people said that they have considered not purchasing in an estate because of the name, which I find really hard to believe, and my bullshit meter goes up a little bit there, and I go, I bet you if that one was $10,000 cheaper than this one, you'd buy it. And I think the Aspire reference supports that. Yes, they would, but not really happily. 64% said the estate name influenced their decision to purchase, which is really important. One of the things that's come up in some of the other presentations has been the question of, well, is it name or is it logo and colour palette and the whole brand image? And I think now, and it links in nicely to the social media conversation we're having earlier, I think now brand is much, much more than the visual identity now, and it has a life outside of the visual identity a lot more than it has a life inside the visual identity. And what I mean by that is every time the name is listed on Facebook or tweeted or put in a text message or even spoken about in conversation, it has a new life. And historically people would have a dinner party and they'd show around the brochures. Now people tweet about it or Facebook it, and you can't say to someone, oh no, when you use our name, you must use it all in uppercase and it must have a space. You know, people will have their own spin, and so your name is very important to work outside of a logo environment. Next question is, has the industry been getting it right? Historically, yes, pretty much. 87.2% they say they like their estate name, and that 11-odd%, actually 12%, said they weren't bothered. But when drilled further, some of them actually were bothered, but they still bought anyway. Maybe because they live there and they've just got to build a bridge, or going to live there and they're sort of coming to terms with it. But it's important when we look at have we been getting it right, the split of what people like now based on the history of estate names. And I think if we looked at the estate names that are currently within the market and then compared that data set to what people like, I think we'd see a bit of a different picture, and we might be losing our way a little bit as an industry, and that's probably my industry's fault. So the key learnings I took from this research is that our buyers are really just reinforced what we see in the field, is that they're more ethnically diverse than average. A real point that I noted is that men are more involved in the purchase decision process than we probably have learnt in the past, and that buyers are really astute and sophisticated, so they don't like to be marketed to, and they don't like things that are not real. What they have is a desire for relatable Australianisms, and the most important thing is I believe people want names that are real and relatable. So by that I mean that the master plan, the actual product that's being delivered, the notable features within the estate are what should lead the estate name. And I think the public are telling us that's what they want to lead an estate name, not a clever marketing spin. Any questions?